Hey, Counter Slammers, it's been a while, huh? So anyway, yeah, Jeremy and I are going to be playing a live game here on the 28th of June, and we are going to be taking the 10th anniversary Hordes box, Rhyas and Saeryn versus E-Chromac. And so we'll give you guys a free live game you guys can watch with us, going back to our roots, doing the live thing, so hopefully you guys will enjoy that. In the meantime, until we get to that point, I wanted to give you guys a model review of both Epic Rhyas and Epic Saeryn. Now, most of you, I'm sure, who've watched our show know that Rhyas is one of my favorite Legion Warlocks. So I was really excited to hear that we were getting an Epic version. Now, I know what a lot of you guys are thinking, that once they did spoil the stats and show the cards, a lot of people were very disappointed. And I'm going to share with you my thoughts and my feelings towards a lot of it. I do share to some degree a little bit of what people were thinking in the disappointment factor, but there's some hope, I think, with Rhyas and Saeryn as well, that I think people might be missing. So anyway, let's take a look at the models. Let's take a look at their stats, what they can do, and let's see if we can't, see the light at the end of the tunnel with these guys. So let's look at Saeryn first, because Saeryn, obviously being one of our more powerful casters in her Prime version, definitely took a hit in the Epic version. Now, because these guys are a unit, they, obviously they had to tone them down a bit. Otherwise, they couldn't just give us Saeryn and Rhyas together, because then we'd just have two Warlocks in a game where, most people only have one. And I think they kept some good things, especially with Rhyas. Saeryn really didn't keep much of anything. So she had the biggest change of the two sisters. And let's take a look. So she has Fury 7 still. Her mats, I believe, are identical to what they are in her Prime version, which is Speed 7s, Mat 6, Rat 7, Defense 16, Arm 14. She has a command of 8. She is the officer of the two models, since they activate as a unit. She does not have the throwing daggers anymore, but she does have a Staff of Shives, is what it's called, and it's a Power Strike 10. It has a reach, and of course, magic weapon. She has 8 hitboxes, as does her sister. That was probably one of my biggest things that worried me the most about these two. Now they've turned super squishy. So like the opposite of Super Saiyan, I think, for those of you familiar with Dragon Ball Z. So anyway, her abilities is she has Bond of Blood with Rhyas. She can spend Fury points to transfer damage to Rhyas. One thing that we learned that Jeremy and I were looking at is that there's no rule that says that if like for example, if you need to transfer to a beast that's outside of Rhyas' control, but it's in Saeryn's control, you can transfer the damage to Saeryn, and who can then spend 1 Fury to transfer it to the War Beast. Unless they've come out with a ruling that says you can't do that, but according to the rules as we've seen them, that looks like that is actually the thing, so that you can do that. She is also a channeler with Rhyas, as well as model is not engaged and is in Rhyas' control area. Rhyas can channel spells through her. She has the twin sister ability. Both Rhyas and Saeryn both have that. It says Saeryn and Rhyas are both Warlock models, but only Saeryn has the officer advantage. Saeryn and Rhyas share a single battle group and count as one Warlock for the purposes of army construction. Saeryn cannot make attacks against Rhyas, and Rhyas cannot make attacks against Saeryn. Saeryn and Rhyas have an attached, cannot have an attached model, so you can't take the succubus. And it says your Warlock is destroyed only if both Saeryn and Rhyas are destroyed or removed from play. Her weapon, the Staff of Shives, has Dispel on it. So with this weapon, when this weapon hits a model/unit, upkeep spells on that model and unit expire immediately. So that's the only ability she has. So she doesn't have the ability where she gets extra defense against ranged attacks. So there's she did Lost Grievous Wounds. So there's she definitely took a huge hit. And I think they could have kept a few things in there to make her a little easier, I think, or a little closer to her Prime version. I think people would have appreciated that a little bit more. I don't play Saeryn a ton, although I have been starting to play more games with her in her Prime version, and she is an impressive Warlock. So to see this kind of jump to where she's at now, I feel like they may have missed a few things, like just even keeping 1 or 2 little abilities that would have made her unique among the two sisters would have been, I think, a little bit better. Let's take a look at her spell list. Her spells are, she's got 5 spells. She has Banishing Ward, which enemy upkeep spells on target friendly model or units expire. Affected models cannot be the target of enemy spells or animi. She has Blood Rain, which I believe she had before. I know Crix has a lot of that. So 3-inch AoE, anything hit has continuous corrosion effect on it. It's POW 12. Costs 3. She has Marked for Death, which is her new debuff spell, which target enemy model/unit suffers -2 defense and loses incorporeal and stealth and cannot gain those abilities while affected by the Marked for Death. Friendly faction models can target an affected model regardless of line of sight. In the couple of games I played with these two, that has actually helped me a lot against. I played Crix and shooting like Blackbanes, for example, with that, and then using Zuriel to like spray them and get them off the table is a huge bonus. She has another spell which a lot of people are kind of upset about. Psychic Vampire, costs 3. It's a self upkeep. And it says, when an enemy model casts a spell or uses an animus while in this model's control area, that enemy model suffers 1 damage point, and this model heals 1 damage point. While the healing thing is kind of nice, I haven't seen that it really tends to work too well against most armies. It can be good against single wound infantry models that cast spells, so you've got the guys with the big fists and retribution that can cast spells, and you've got the druids and things like that in circle, which that could come in really good handy because you can stop them from casting those spells. Or if you're going against Legion, you know, if someone's taking Hex Hunters, again, that's another good spell to kind of take them out. So a lot of people aren't too excited about that particular spell. And she has Razor Wind, which is a range 10, cost 2, 12 POW spell. Not too bad. A lot of people have been using that spell to assassinate other casters once they get there. So that's Saeryn. Take a look at Rhyas now. Rhyas, like I said again, being my favorite of the two sisters. The one thing I like about Rhyas in her prime version is that she's a very simple caster. And her feat is bonkers, ridiculously fun to play with. I think playing these two together makes it infinitely more complex. So I think if you like playing Rhyas, you may not enjoy playing the sisters because of that. So it's kind of a, like I said, it's kind of a mixed bag. Let's take a look at her stuff and then we'll get back to that. She's got a speed 7, mat 8, rat 6, defense 16, armor 14, power and strength 12. Antiphon, she keeps her sword that has reach and weapon master, and of course it's magical. Again, 8 hitboxes, 5 fury. Her and her sister share one war beast point, so spend it wisely. You know, as we like to say here over in Indiana. Anyway, so she's got acrobatics still, which is nice. She has Bond of Blood with Saeryn, so she can transfer damage to Saeryn. She is Channeler, so Saeryn can channel spells through her. She's granted Riposte. So what's kind of cool about this is when Rhyas had this ability before, but now Saeryn gets that as well. So if somebody makes an attack against Saeryn and misses, she automatically gets to make an attack against them. Of course, if she hits, she knocks upkeep spells off, which is kind of cool. She has twin sister, just like Rhyas, or Saeryn, I'm sorry, and she's kept crit decapitation. So if she gets a crit on her attack, any damage done over the armor is doubled. And so they kept her mostly like she was in their prime version. That's why I think that it was such a huge shock to see what they did to Saeryn, because with Rhyas they seem to keep most things, and her spell list did change a little bit, which we'll take a look here. But that, so playing Rhyas, you're not playing her too terribly different. I wish she had sprint. Maybe we'll get a beast that grants sprint, something she can use later on. But we'll see. She again has 3 spells. First one is Onslaught. Those of you who play Convergence will know this. Axis has this spell. Friendly faction models beginning a charge in this model's control area gain Pathfinder during the charge. Then she has Flashing Blade, which comes into play with her feat. And then she has Occultation, so target friendly model unit gains stealth, which of course she had before. And so let's take a look at their feat. So their feat, it says this feat can be used once per game by either Saeryn or Rhyas. It's called Conjoined Spirits. When this feat is used, either Saeryn and Rhyas immediately trade places, or you can return one of them to play if one of them happens to die. If you choose to return Saeryn Rhyas to play, place the return model within 3 inches of the model that used this feat. The return model comes into play with a number of Fury points equal to its Fury stat. After using Conjoined Spirits, models in this unit cannot advance for 1 turn. So there's a lot of movement shenanigans that can be done with this particular feat, and in the games that I've kind of play tested, I've been able to get there were some games where I've sacrificed Saeryn to get Rhyas to be able to charge up, pop the feat after a movement, drop Saeryn in behind, and then let Saeryn, make the first attack and cast the spells, dropping a Warcaster's defense immensely, and then finishing up the turn with Rhyas doing her hopefully crit decapitations. So they're definitely an assassination unit. They play very, very differently than anything we've ever had, and I think that's okay because look, it seems like every faction seems to get those casters where they either build upon what you already have, which is kind of what we got with Epic Absolunia, or they're going to try something new, which is kind of what you're doing with the twins here. And the twins, are they strong competitively? Right now I would say no. They're fun to play, they're interesting to play. I think on those games when if you don't play in a lot of tournaments, or if you want to take a break from a lot of tournament play and you want to try something a little bit different, these are actually pretty good models to do it with, I think. The way you have to consider playing with them, though, is instead of playing so much where you're worried about being more aggressive on the field, you need to plan that the rest of your army needs to protect these two, because with only 8 hit points apiece, you're going to need to sit on 3 transfers or so on each of these models, moving them up the field. You really do, and so that can be a little tricky when you're trying to cast spells or animuses or account for fury management on the board. I would definitely recommend taking a couple heavies. Take a screening unit is always recommended. A lot of people have been taking the Raptors or the Swordsmen or the Hex Hunters because they have advanced deploy, so they can screen a little farther up front. There's little things that you can kind of do. The Ogre and War Spears I think are a great unit to take with these guys, with the UA, because they're medium base and these guys can hide behind them. So there is a lot going on, and I think you have to build defensively. You gotta take the Nephilim, you gotta take the Rakes, you gotta take the Lessers. The Lessers can be used greatly with these two, especially with the Harrier, giving an auto hit for your casters, or the Shredder obviously, plus with tenacity on these two can be great, especially with Riposte. As far as keeping them alive, because the one major flaw they have is they really can't crack armor too well. If you're going up against something in armor 20, which when I go up against Jeremy here against Echromac, that's what I'm going to be facing. Rhyas really struggles with that, because even with crit decapitation, you're still doing maybe 6 to 8 points of damage if you're lucky. It's still pretty disgusting. So you have to be, like I said, you got to be really careful with these two. Yeah, so the armor cracking, you're going to take Zuriel. I'd recommend a Scythian. Some people have been taking Angelius's to help for like clearing zones. So there are things you can take with them to help, and I think ultimately what's going to come down to with these two, to whether or not they become playable, is really what we get in the next book, because the Gargantuan I think is going to work really well with them, giving granting concealment, dropping defense, stopping spells. That's going to give them an extra layer of protection all the way around, and it gives them a heavy hitter. So I wouldn't be shocked that when the Gargantuan comes out, the Blightbringer, that being one of their key pieces moving up the field, and it can block line of sight to them too. So yeah, so I would not be shocked if that ends up being a thing with these guys. Also with their tier list, a lot of people are speculating what's going to be on their tier list. We have no idea. I mean, there are so many things. They can take almost anything, really, and make use of anything, and they kind of appreciate everything that all the models in Legion bring to the table. Probably more so than most other casters, because they can sort of, I guess, be sort of beast heavy, but they can also kind of be infantry heavy. You want to take enough beasts to help Reeve enough fury to get them to their full, because you don't want to have to cut for fury, but you don't need to go completely beast heavy, because they're going to be sitting on a lot of transfers every turn, so you don't have to worry about necessarily having a ton of beasts in the list. I guess if that makes sense to generate as 12 fury every turn, because you're not going to need to generate 12 every turn. Maybe the turn after, if you fail an assassination, maybe, but, you know. So, you know, personally, what I'm more curious about are the lists that you guys are running. I think most of us building lists, if you guys will notice online, especially the Facebook, most people don't really seem to know exactly what list to take with them. They don't know if, like, nobody is super comfortable saying, like, this is the list you need to run. The list I'm going to be taking against Jeremy on our live event is a list that I've found to be pretty well balanced. So I don't know if this ends up being a thing. I know a lot of people are looking at Blight Wasps. I don't have any Blight Wasps in that list, but yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Great looking models. Can't wait to get them on the board, let you guys check them out, and you know, I hope you guys see them in action. Hopefully I can at least give Jeremy a run for his money. If maybe it'll be a quick game, we'll see. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will see you guys on the next live episode of Counterslam.